What up, players? Welcome to my channel. My name is John Connor. If this is your first time here, thanks for tapping in. If you've been here before, thanks for coming back and showing the love. Now, the content I'm about to show you is taking me a while to edit, it's taking me a while to record, and I'm just trying to, get the nuts and bolts out of it. But while I was doing that, I had an actual internet outage, which prevented me from getting a chunk of work done in a certain day. That day also happened to be the same day that Drake's lawsuit against UMG was thrown out in federal court. So I didn't get to celebrate with you guys online, on the YouTube spaces and the social media spaces, but that if you're coming down from that high, this might bring you back up a little bit. Before we get into it, one more thing, I want to shout out two people. I just want to say thanks to my friend CG for just reminding me to just keep talking my shit even when it feels like nobody's watching. And then I also want to give a shout out to Jaden. I know I got in your DMs talking crazy about Drake, and then I ghosted you. I hope this video gives you more of an answer of what you were looking for. Anyway, this is going to be a long one, so strap in, tap in after the fact, and thanks for watching. Merriam-Webster's defines tofu as a soft product prepared by treating soybean milk with coagulants such as magnesium chloride or diluted acids. When I refer to dictionary.com, it defines tofu as unfermented soybean curd, a food with soft, cheese-like consistency made from soybean milk. The Cambridge Dictionary definition of tofu is described as a soft, pale food with little flavor but high in protein that is made from soybeans. Now, as the title suggests, we aren't actually talking about tofu as much as we're talking about music. And so in that context, let me give you the John Connor definition of music industry tofu. Music industry tofu: a soft, bland, pale individual or entity that mimics the musical flavor and or absorbs the figurative sauce of any artist, community, or musical genre in its immediate vicinity and passes it off as their own. Kendrick insinuated last summer during his battle with Drake that Toronto had no regional sound. Or in the context of upcoming cuisine comparisons, he was basically saying that Toronto has no flavor in hip-hop that differentiates itself from other regions. Now, in my opinion, that's not necessarily a bad thing. On the surface of it all, there are hip-hop scenes all over this country, all over this world for that matter, that have not made that clear distinction of what separates their sound from any other. For example, I'm sure there are rap communities and collectives and groups in places like Anchorage, Alaska, Tucson, Arizona, even Vancouver, Canada for that matter. But I couldn't describe or tell you what the Anchorage, Alaska hip-hop sound is. And I couldn't name an artist in Tucson, Arizona. And no shade to anyone in those regions or from those regions anywhere. If you're an artist anywhere, go ahead and tap in and let me know what you think about the video. But yeah, there's a lot of play. I think hip hop is everywhere. Hip hop is all over. But I think a lot of us would be, caught off guard if, someone was to ask you, what is the Caracas, Venezuela hip hop sound? I don't know. I'm sure someone's rapping down there, but I just couldn't tell you. And, that's not a bad thing, like I said. But regardless, that shouldn't be the case with Toronto. That's just my opinion. For the simple fact that if Drake was as great a creative mind as his stands make him out to be, then he would have been cultivated a community or a collective from his own backyard that lets people know subconsciously this is the Toronto sound. When you hear it, okay, Manda, I'm about to jump on this. We don't have that. That's not the case. And so I'm here to ask and answer why. If we look at early Drake, not best I ever had Drake, but tuna salad on a bagel sandwich Drake.
I was looking forward to a nice tuna sandwich on a bagel.
I live in my mom's basement that's bigger than the house you grew up in, Drake.
Now we're going to check out my space. This is my space. This is where I live. And through here, this is my living room. I like a chilling vibe. That's my favorite thing about this basement.
When we look at that Drake, if you ever been around real ones, Drake that Drake was a clown. He was a clown. He had no sauce. He was quoting the N-word with the hard R, like culturally illiterate, closed captioning. He's smiling and posing in blackface. Just that guy. The one you knew was just like, whose man's is this? Whose man's was that? Whose man's was that was doing all that? While those photos weren't actually revealed to us until later down the timeline, it does beg the question, like, yo, what other type of fuck shit were you on that we still don't know about? Like, what type of goofy stuff were you involved in that just has not come to light yet?
How old are you?
The fact that people have to think like that is very telling. It's an indictment at that, to be honest with you. If you haven't checked out the intro video to my channel, do me a favor and go ahead and show that some love. Check it out. Any support is appreciated. But in that video, I listed some of my personal interests, one of which being film. And when Drake comes up, in my head, I always think about the movie Bamboozled from Spike Lee, or by Spike Lee, the Spike Lee joint. I've only seen that movie once or twice. I can't say I've only seen it once, but I can count on one hand how many times I've seen that. And I have a very hazy recollection due to me seeing it when it came out, early around that time. Once it hit Stars, and it was basically on rotation. If you ever watched Stars in the early 2000s, they showed the same movies all damn day. Next Friday, South Central, Bamboozled, Heavy Metal. Yeah, them things was spinning. But I only watched Bamboozled once or twice because it's not really a movie that you throw on with company, and it's not really something where you're alone and you're just like, yeah, let me check this out if you've seen it already. Like, I'm not running that back. There's a scene from that movie that's basically seared into my brain, which is crazy for the minimal amount of times I've seen it. But in that scene, it's basically a stage actor burning cork to create blackface makeup. You know, that's what pops into my head when I hear Drake's name. Or when I hear, or let me take that back. That is the imagery that pops into my head when we are talking about Drake in a manner that isn't about his music. Like, when we're not talking about Drake's actual music content, when we're talking about him, this is the imagery that plays in my head. And it's due to that photo. And not only, but then it's also symbolic of his actions. And so I think that it's like a double-edged sword. It's cutting from both sides. Like, it's been speculated that Drake and his team took offense to his character on the show Degrassi being confined to a wheelchair because they felt it negatively affected his image in hip-hop. Yet nobody thought the blackface would do any harm. Nobody saw the possible ramifications of a photo like that being taken. Nobody who was his handler at the time was around to say, you sure about that? Nah, bro. We kiboshing that shit. We putting the kibosh on all that. When I think about that, and then I think about when you down talk to Mandem on your double date with them unseasoned individuals, the way we saw you do in that video, then come back years later, dropping that horrendous patois like some fake ass bun and cheese merchant. I'm afraid I might have to call your authenticity into question. You feel me? Like that, I feel like that shit is out of pocket. And when you're in blackface with no context as to why, and you're referring to other black people as N-words with the hard R,
it just sort of, it bugged me, man. It bugged me because it was like somebody I looked up to at one point. It was somebody that I was like, I used to see out and be like, yo, that's that nigga, you know what I'm saying?
And then you start Family Matters the way you started Family Matters.
Maybe in this song, you shouldn't start by saying,
Nigga, I said it, I know that you mad.
Gang, come on. I gotta call the authenticity into question. I got to. You lack self-awareness when you talk like that in both instances. At least in the first instance, I believe you just weren't culturally educated enough. But once you, I mean, once you've been in rap for as long as you have, like, bro, you can't. It is what it is, bro. It is what it is. Now, me saying Drake is inauthentic doesn't mean Tofu is inauthentic or doesn't have a place. There are just some places or dishes or scenarios where I don't think it's necessary or outright doesn't belong. In a former life, I worked in a Jamaican restaurant. I held positions from cashier to prep cook to server to dishwasher. And when you work a job like that, you're privy to meeting new people. And not only that, but you also get to learn their eating habits. And so I'm not sure if I can do it, but I'm gonna try right now. I'm gonna list all the entrees that we used to serve: jerk chicken, curry chicken, brown stew chicken, curry goat, oxtails, Escovitch tilapia, Escovitch snapper, brown stew tilapia, brown stew snapper, ackee and saltfish, brown stew curry tofu, brown stew tofu, and curry tofu. So now, basically, the tofu plates, after looking back and taking note, were the lowest volume sellers on any day not named Friday. On Fridays, the tofu and fish plates sold well, especially, I think, because of the Seventh-day Adventist Sabbath. The curry and brown stew tofu sauces were prepared like their chicken and goat counterparts, but without the fat from the protein or the marrow from the bone, which adds flavor. Which is why while they do taste similar, in fact, they're not the same because they can't be. Now imagine walking into your favorite Jamaican restaurant and Drake is behind the counter. Not only is he giving you his best Miss Cleo,
try us right now for free,
but he's also let you know that for the time being, they'll only be serving the tofu options on the menu. I don't know about you, but I'm not staying there. I don't want that. But guess what? That's basically Drake's whole music approach. When he acts Jamaican or uses patois, he's not serving you oxtails. It's not rice and peas. It's not ackee and saltfish. It's not even rice and sardines. And I love rice and sardines. He's serving you curry tofu and brown stew tofu with the optional roti skins at his discretion. I'd rather buy bun and cheese and cola champagne and drink that shit all day than be given free curry tofu, free brown stew tofu. And I can make these comps because my parents are Jamaican and a large portion of my family still lives there. So I'm familiar with the culture and the customs. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not blind to the fact that a lot of dance hall's big artists co-sign Drake. Vibes Cartel, Pop Count included. And I guess you could say that that's what's also going on across the pond. Artists like Skepta and Central C have shown their allegiance to Drake and his brand, OVO.
I'm so proud of this guy right here, for real. I don't want to get like sentimental or emotional, but yo, this guy right here, y'all should be very fucking proud. He's going around the world killing shit.
We are proud,
fucking
very
shutting
proud.
down every show, record after record,
Yes.
from right here at home. So make
Yes,
some fucking
C.
noise for my brother Central C.
Yes.
Love. And
Hey!
we might have something on the way. We might have something on the way.
right. Hey!
Load in.
Yeah.
Load in.
That's supported by them promoting his apparel brand Nocta to his collabs like Skepta on More Life and Drake's recent collab with Central C. And don't forget his Atlanta situation. I really don't want to get too much into that just because it has turned into something that I did not foresee happening when I came up with the idea of this topic. And I've had this idea in my head for a long time. And so I've been basing and making this argument work in my head sans the fallout, sans the jail talk, the jail calls from Jamaican Vegeta.
Man, watch out.
All that. I didn't factor that into making this video or making these claims. Now, in my opinion, reference tracks are another example of tofu behavior. Most people look at ghostwriting allegations as, hey, you don't write the rhymes that you have been passing as your own. But it doesn't stop there. I challenge you to consider another side of reference tracks, the delivery. While these reference tracks do give the artist actual rhymes, it's also a guide in how to deliver those rhymes. From cadence to octave, it's all laid out for the artist to recreate in his studio session, his or her studio session. Women aren't immune above ghostwriters. Yeah, that would be totally sexist for me to just point this at men. So I'm not gonna do that. I'm pretty sure a lot of women are using ghostwriters as well. I'm not gonna say, even though I have an idea. I don't have any proof or cared enough to look into who's writing. I just don't care. I just don't care. But from my perspective, cadence and octave is flavor. That's sauce. It's like styling outfits. You can give 5 different people the same shirt, pants, and shoes combo and get 5 different looks. So even if a nigga was handed a whole verse, he could still style it with his own swag, his own sound, his own flavor, right? Unless you have no flavor, unless you are unseasoned and processed to a higher degree than traditional protein, then you're probably like that one kid. You know him, the one that uses his mom's credit card to buy all the hype gear that he sees people wearing and talking about online, but has no actual knowledge of what he's buying other than everybody else is wearing it, everybody else is doing it, everybody else is rocking it. You know that kid. You knew that kid. I don't know any kids like that now, but when I was younger and I was running around Fairfax, you saw them kids. That's just how it goes. Now, Drake can get away with soaking up dance hall gravy and packaging it into Temu bento boxes for large-scale distribution for a couple reasons. One of them being because there is a lack of prominent dance hall artists putting on for an international audience. Anytime somebody as big as Drake actually wants to come in and co-opt or colonize your sound / movement, it's looked at as he's putting us on. And to be honest, to be fair, to some extent, he is giving international exposure to some little known artists and or extending the reach of more prominent artists into spaces they might not have had access to otherwise. So I can't sit here and act like, even though he is co-opting, that in some spaces it does benefit the other group. In some spaces, I think it's safe to say he's running the same program in the UK. I knew about Skepta before Drake, but at the same time, there are probably a lot of people that didn't know about Skepta. There's probably a lot of people who don't know about Central C or didn't know about Central C until Which One, which is kind of crazy if you think about it, because Central C was buzzing heavy earlier in the year around the Super Bowl when his album dropped. Yeah, so it's crazy if Which One is your first introduction into Central C, but like I was mentioning earlier, that is kind of that yin and yang where, yeah, he might be soaking up the sauce, but he is giving exposure to an audience that might not have otherwise seen that artist, or they might have found her way later down the line. So, like I said, I gotta give credit where credit's due. I don't like Drake. Let me get this shit out the way. I don't like this nigga for the way he moves, but I won't sit here and just hate on him for the sport of hating on him. Like it shouldn't be a sport, because this is a real predator out here. We don't have to just hunt this nigga down just for laughs. Like, this nigga's really out here wilding. If you're gonna take him down for some real shit. You know what I'm saying? So I will give him credit where I believe it's due, because that's really how you get people to, gain your credibility. Like, I'm not just gonna shit on dude all day. I could, but I think it would be disingenuous to not mention some of the things that's positive that he's done, or that's, coming out of his camp. I can criticize you, but I can also, give credit where credit's due. And I give him that. Like, some people just weren't gonna hear some of these artists unless Drake got on they shit. Now, all of that co-opting, colonizing, gentrifying, ballyhoo, tomfoolery of dancehall and grime are perceived to be okay because, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the top artists from those genres understand the exposure from Drake. Could be the high tide that lifts all vessels. But aside from Atlanta, that is not the case for hip hop. That's not it. I don't believe that to be. American barbecue, in my opinion, is the music equivalent to hip hop with regional flavor profiles such as Kansas City, Carolina, and Memphis being the equivalent to Bay Area hyphy, Atlanta trap, and Houston screw. Those regional sounds, along with those regional flavors, have been decades, if not generations, in the making. Now, I'll allow you to argue that Drake getting on or riding the trap wave in Atlanta does not make the music worse. The way Tofu wouldn't make Memphis barbecue worse, in fact. I would argue it just mean more Atlanta flavor by volume. But I would just have to mention that it doesn't raise the flavor quality at all. Remember, he's not the equivalent of exotic animal protein like alligator or ostrich or something wild that would actually bring a different flavor profile to whatever you're cooking. He's just taking up space, to be honest. And that's that low key, that sounds harsh, but when you do equivocate the tofu, it's just there, bro. It's just more, it's not doing anything but just sucking up the air. That's what it's there for. Don't get me twisted. I love it in my miso. But that shit tastes like miso, bro. When I eat it in the miso soup, it tastes like miso. So it is what it is. It's not harming the plate, but it's there. But yeah, he's basically hip hop filler. Looks like hip hop, sounds like hip hop, but you feel empty after you listen, especially if he's paired with non-desirables. If he's got someone or he's rapping with someone you just don't like, bro, it don't get better. He's not helping that situation. Especially, like I said, if you don't like the person who he's rapping with. Because from this equation, he should just be the complement because he has, like I said, he has no sound. He's riding off your sound. He's riding off your flavor. And if you don't like that flavor, this nigga's not going to help you like whatever else they bringing out. If you don't like Frosted Flakes, tofu in your Frosted Flakes isn't gonna help. If you don't like chow mein, tofu in your chow mein isn't gonna help. If you don't like fried chicken, tofu in your fried, it's just not gonna help. You feel me? Put it like this. Imagine a mega feast from Famous Dave's. Let me run it down. I gotta look at this thing. 2 full slabs of ribs, St. Louis style. 2 whole country roasted chickens, Georgia chopped pork, creamy coleslaw, famous fries, Wilbur beans, and sweet corn. Now I know what you're thinking. Where's the tofu? Where's the edamame? How do you expect me to consume this meal without coagulated soybean? How do you expect me to listen to this song without Drake on it? How do you expect me to do these things? How? How, Sway? Cue it. Cue that shit.
How, Sway?
To be honest, I don't know. I don't have dietary restrictions, religious or medical, so I don't relate to people whose religious beliefs dictate what they can and cannot eat. And though I may be sensitive to lactose at times, it does not dictate how I live my life. I do understand if soft cheese-like protein is more in step with your worldview than chicken or lamb or beef, then go off. Live your life. Who am I? I'm just some guy talking shit on the internet.
Simple as that.
It is what it is. Now, after all that, like I said, I know it sounded like I may be hating on Drake, and I don't want that to come off that way. Well, like I said, I don't want it to come off that I'm hating on Drake because he is Drake.
And he doesn't deserve to be kicked when he's down.
But I guess that kind of is what it is. Like, I just don't like the way he moves, and I guess that's just who he is. So I guess, yeah, I'm hating on him, but it's not something that I take joy in or that I'm like, yeah, like, I want to hate on him. I'll listen to the T. Like, I'll listen to people talk shit. Like, I don't care. But I'm also not going to just go with a narrative because it sounds good, you know? Like I said, I just severely dislike how he represents himself in the hip-hop sphere. I feel like he inserts himself into hip-hop business and culture, but refuses to engage with journalists who actually focus and cater to hip-hop culture, while simultaneously elevating journalists / influencers who are, if not ignorant to the culture, outright despise the culture, which is destructive, to be honest, especially when you have the kind of influence that Drake has been given, because I do believe that he has been put where he is by the industry. If there was ever an industry plant, it was Drake. The way that we've seen through these lawsuits how UMG basically put this man on a pedestal and shoved him down our throats. Pause. They were shoving Drake down our throats. Pause. Outside of the Tofu comparisons, I liken Drake to a shopkeeper who opens a business in a neighborhood, but he refuses to reinvest in the community. He despises his customer base and in actuality goes out of his way to spend the money he earns in a more affluent neighboring community. Now, I didn't always see that side of Drake. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't looking hard enough. But I always knew, even from the beginning, when I saw him in whatever random Trey Songz music video that I saw him in, that he was goofy. I couldn't take him serious. You know what I'm saying? I went from watching Aubrey on Degrassi with the Monchichi hairline, thick Canuck accent, and proclivity to say the N-word with the hard R to
that nigga
being, light-skinned Don Lothario with the biggest house in Pleasantville, who now speaks for a community that he really didn't even identify with until he was a legal adult. He was a tourist in these spaces. Someone mentioned, you were black when you visit your cousins during the summer. That was your exposure. You weren't living it. You was touring it. You was stopping in, checking in, and going back. With all that being said, though, my initial issue with Drake was the fact that his albums never sounded like hip-hop albums. They sounded like hybrid R&B albums. Sonically, I didn't have a problem with the music at all. Drake got big because people liked a certain Drake, and it was crooner, slow jam, best I ever had Drake. But I was feeling some kind of way about classifying these albums as anything other than edgy R&B. And case in point is Marvin's Room. I hate Marvin's Room. I fucking hate that song. My kid's mom used to play it all the time. And I was so disinterested in it that I never even knew the name of it. I never knew what the song was called. That's how much I did not like that shit. That's how much I wasn't paying attention to it when it came on. That's how much I just avoided it. I stopped listening to FM radio in the early 2000s, and any exposure I had to that song was secondhand from it being played around me, no lie. I thought Marvin's Room was a song that magically escaped my ears for years because I could have never heard that. Or so I thought I hadn't heard Marvin's Room. I did not put the title with the song. My brain could not make the connection between that actual song and the hype behind it in hip-hop circles in general, because it was an R&B song by somebody being promoted as a rapper. And as a matter of fact, how many of Drake's songs that went #1 are not genuine rap songs? How many of Drake's top 5 #1 songs are actual rap songs? Yet him getting #1 songs in other genres is being used to equate his dominance as a hip-hop artist on the strength of non-hip-hop songs. That's why I can't get behind the hype. You rap, but your catalog is not giving rapper. Your catalog is giving, heavy Ja Rule. And I wasn't fucking with that nigga either. Let's be real. Like, 50 Cent destroyed that man. And even before that, it was a turn off. That video with him and Ashanti at that Grease video. Nah, I'm straight. Keep all that. Now, credit where credit is due. If someone said Drake was the GOAT of getting the club lit, I would not argue with that person. I wouldn't do it.
Can't do it.
If you were to tell me Drake is the king of surface level party music whose writing prowess may come into question, yeah, I'm gonna let you cook. Go ahead on, finish that up. No arguments here, I'm all ears. But the conversations about Drake being the GOAT or GOAT talk in general and referring to him is bad taste at best.
I'm a rapper. You're a pop star. Just make everyone's hands go up again.
And blasphemous at worst. I'm not saying all his albums are trash either. I'm not saying that because I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that at all. In my opinion, Drake has 4 good albums. That's what I said. Drake has 4 good albums. What a Time to Be Alive, More Life, Her Loss, and Certified Lover Boy. All 4 of these albums got multiple spins on my DSP accounts, and More Life actually being purchased through Apple Music. I like More Life a lot. I'm not gonna lie. More Life to me, of the Drake albums I listen to, because I'm not gonna front like I listen to everything. The first Drake album I ever bought and listened to was It Was All the Same. That album sounds like Foreign Exchange to me. If you don't know Foreign Exchange, go listen to Foreign Exchange. Fonte and man, what is the producer's name? I forgot. Yo, shout out to I forgot his name, bro. I'm gonna have to get up in this and post it and put his name in there. And Foreign Exchange, while I like Foreign Exchange, there's a time and place for that shit. There's a time and place for that. There's a reason why if you haven't heard Foreign Exchange, that you haven't heard it. It's not bad, but it's just not something I'm putting on every day. That's what all Drake's albums sound like to me. And I didn't like that album.
Even Drake discography. For all the dogs, honestly, never mind Certified Lover Boy and Scorpion, you can't compare none of these niggas' albums to the last 4 of Kendrick.
I think it had Worst Behavior, it had Wu-Tang Forever, which is one of the key reasons. Like, bro, you tell me this song's called Wu-Tang Forever and you singing on the whole fucking song, bro. Stop it, bro. Stop it, bro. I can't do this shit. And so I listened to that and I'm like, this is who y'all talking about? This is y'all GOAT? And I'm sure he probably put out something better than that since like Views. I didn't give Views a chance. I didn't listen to Views. Didn't listen to Views. Didn't listen to Scorpion. Didn't listen. I listened to Scorpion for like 3 songs. I was out. I did not hear that whole album. Couldn't sit through it. What's that other? For All the Dogs, never listened to it. Which is why when actual first-person shooter got mentioned, I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea what that shit was. Never heard that song until the beef started. And then I had to go back and basically, get up there. And I ain't gonna front, bro. First Person Shooter is fire as fuck. I love that song and that video. That's me giving credit where credit is due. Like, if my nigga made a whole album of those, First Person Shooter, fucking Jimmy Crooks, bro, like, all that.
I want winners.
Okay, let's talk about it. But at the same time, you got Ghost Riders, so let's not talk about it. But I wouldn't be knocking him as much if the catalog sounded more like First Person Shooter. Like, I don't need all that R&B shit. Like, I'm not. We got Music Soul Child and fucking and whoever, Anthony Hamilton, for all that.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
I don't need Drake to drop draws on bitches, bro. I need Drake to drop some rap music so that when people start talking about him in hip hop, conversations, I don't have to give the Mourinho meme, bro. Get up out of here with that shit. Full disclosure, since getting back into buying physical media, which I used to do a lot, I used to spend a lot of time in record stores when they were really big. I haven't bought a single Drake vinyl since I started getting back into physical media and buying actual vinyl records. I've seen Her Loss and More Life a couple times at Rhino Records, and I always chose against buying them just because there's something in my soul. Like I said, the way this man represents himself now, it's like I couldn't see myself going through the motions of digging through a crate and pulling out Drake and then saying nah and going to the next Drake and being like, you know what I mean? And then pulling it out the plastic and throwing it on and making sure that the vinyl is clean and all that, bro. I don't have the energy to do that shit for no Drake shit, bro. I don't. That's being real. And it's not for any other reason. It's just like, bro, I can't not think about how you moving right now. I can't. And it's unsavory. It's unsatisfactory. I don't like it. That's that shit I don't like, the way you moving. And it makes me not want to listen to your music. It's like, man, there's too much music I haven't heard for me to be going out of my way to fuck with this nigga like that. Just off GP. That's just how I feel about it. So I did mention earlier how I felt that Drake is an industry plant. And I feel that way because Drake is not relatable from many different aspects. The biracial Canadian former child actor turned rich music star with a Peter Pan complex, chasing accolades of another former child star with the Peter Pan complex, is just very hard for me to relate to. It's very hard for me to identify with that.
No, that's ignorant.
But I think it aptly describes Drake. And so how does that guy become the face of hip hop? The guy I just described, the kid with the Peter Pan complex who couldn't even identify with black culture until he was a legal adult. How does he become the face of hip hop? How does his face, as a matter of fact, end up on every playlist on Spotify? Regardless of music genre, this nigga's face is plastered all over, or was plastered all over everything that got nothing to do with him. To the point that Spotify was sued, and I believe they settled. Because yeah, why do I see his face when I'm searching for Tijuana Brass? Like, why do I see this dude's face if this is supposed to be a Liz Fair playlist? Which, hey, you know what? Drake's face on a Liz Fair playlist? Fitting. Fitting. Anyway, because at that point, it's not a hip-hop thing. It's a music thing. Getting your face all over all of those playlists is a music industry play. Dr. Dre's face ain't on contemporary classical. Taylor Swift's face is not on Rap Caviar. That ain't happening. So you tell me how one artist could insert himself into other people's business the way he was inserted into all those playlists without assistance from a label and no relation to said genre. His entitlement is what has driven him to be the hip hop villain. And don't get it twisted. Drake is the villain of hip hop, the way Donald Trump is the villain to American democracy. Both shunned by institutions they desperately sought acceptance from, then used litigation and corruption to try and destroy the very village that rejected them, all without self-awareness or remorse. Now, because of what Drake has accomplished in his career, along with relationships he's cultivated and curated, I have no belief that he will ever fall off musically. Drake is primed to transition to the Pitbull and Flo Rida route of making corporate hip-hop adjacent anthem music. If anything ever fails, he always has that in his back pocket. And to be honest, he'll probably do it better than anybody has ever done it. He's going to out Pitbull. He's going to out Flo Rida. If you ever thought Drake was going to get bodied to the point that, and don't get it twisted.
If Drake and Kendrick Lamar got in a rap battle, who do you think would win?
Got to go with Kendrick.
My man curb stomped him, but like we said, like, he's got industry backing. He is a plant. Even if he was destroyed the way he was, I never for a second thought that he couldn't pivot into, like what I said, making corporate hip hop anthem adjacent music. Like, that lane would fit him perfectly, because we don't look at that genre or those songs for substance. It's kind of what he's been doing anyway. Just making music for people to dance to and vibe to, while claiming to be a lyricist, or claiming to be someone, or portraying himself to be someone who's authentic in that hip hop sphere. And I don't agree with that. Now, to bring this all back full circle, let me basically wrap this diatribe up.
Who did do?
With all that being said, whether you agree or disagree with however long this video has been, I'm sure you might also be asking yourself, what's the point? Like, you've been talking for however long you've been talking. What are you saying? And you're right. I just been talking out of my ass about Anchorage, Alaska, and Bun and Cheese, and Jamaican Vegeta. Even he got a mention. But anyway, the overall point is that to argue in any way that Drake is the king of hip hop, best rapper alive, or even the GOAT, I would argue that's like saying tofu is the greatest entree in the history of barbecue. And no, it's not. It's false. It's not true. It's bullshit. Drake is not the GOAT. Drake is not the greatest. Drake will never be the greatest. You've got to write your own rhymes. There cannot be a stink of ghostwriter on you. That's off rip. You can still make good music. You can still make music people appreciate. You can still make award-winning music in certain award categories, as far as I'm concerned. You might win more in other categories. I just don't think they're deserved. But no one's saying you can't be in the industry. But to say that this man is anything other than just a guy, musically, I'm not talking about numbers. You want to talk about numbers, it is what it is. But like I said, industry plants, no, you know what? I'm not gonna make that, because Ice Spices, I believe, is an industry plant. That bitch numbers suck. It is what it is. Anyway, If you like the vid, like and subscribe. If you hate the vid, jump in the comments, let me know. Yeah, man, I ain't tripping. Go ahead and let me know what you guys think about the video, and till next one, see you later.